All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is the Prebid conference for the Kindergarten to College Community-Based Partner Request for Proposal. My name is Nicole Agbayani. I'm the Director of the Office of Financial Empowerment here in San Francisco. I'll be joined later in the presentation by my colleague Mohan, who manages the K2C program. Today's pre-bid conference, we'll be talking about an upcoming solicitation that we're planning to release out of the Treasurer and Tax Collector's Office. It's a little distinct from a bidders conference in that here at TTX, we like to use these pre-bids as an opportunity to really socialize the idea with the bidder community before we publish. And so it gives us the opportunity to answer your questions and also, more importantly, to get any reactions and feedback that you might have for us before we go live with the solicitation. And so, we'll be looking for that type of feedback from you as well if you're open to sharing and you have thoughts. We're thrilled today to be here sharing the opportunity to support really important work of the Kindergarten to College program in getting information out about college savings accounts into the hands of students and families who can use this to really make a difference in their lives. The opportunity that we'll be articulating today is a new one for our team. You'll hear in more detail in the presentation, but just to share at a high level, we're planning to scale up existing outreach and engagement work that we do with community-based partners already. And in addition to increasing the scale, we will be incorporating a fuller landscape of college savings accounts for San Francisco families, which means it will be promoting K2C alongside statewide initiatives, primarily Cal Kids, but additionally California's 529 Scholar Share program. And before I dive too deep into the presentation, I also just want to share a couple of housekeeping notes for today's webinar. We're recording today, and we'll make that recording available when we publish the solicitation, which will be later in July. We'll also make sure to share the slide deck that you're seeing today after the meeting, and similarly, we'll publish the slide deck with the solicitation itself. If you have questions as we're working through our presentation for our team, you can feel free to pop them into the chat, and we should have plenty of time at the end of the presentation to address those questions, as well as receive your reactions and your feedback for us. Next slide, please. Great, so a really basic agenda. I see a lot of familiar names on our call with us today, and so we know you guys are mostly pros when it comes to our program already, but we will take some time at the top of the presentation to introduce Kindergarten to College alongside Cal Kids and Scholar Share. I'll talk a little bit more about the contours of the RFP and the scope of work in particular. We'll share what next steps will look like for the solicitation process, and finally leave plenty of time at the end for questions. Next slide, thank you. So for any of you who are unfamiliar with the Office of Financial Empowerment, we're a small unit that sits under the umbrella of the San Francisco Treasurer's Office. Our mission, you can read on the slide here, but we convene, innovate, and advocate to strengthen economic security and mobility for all San Franciscans. We focus a lot of our capacity and our time on greater financial inclusion for low-income folks in San Francisco, and in particular for families. The core of our operation and how we accomplish our mission is really around the programs that we operate. Kindergarten to College is one of them. We'll go into a lot more detail, but it's one of a suite of programs that are run out of our office. Additionally, we have a free financial coaching provided through our Smart Money coaching program, as well as working to create access to safe and affordable bank accounts through the Bank On program. And additionally, we work on a number of pilots and policy initiatives at any given time. Currently, some of the things that we are thinking about and working on as an office focus on guaranteed income, student debt, as well as trying to create greater financial access for the smallest businesses within our community here in San Francisco. So I think now, I'll pass it on to Mohan to share greater detail about K2C and Cal Kids and Scholar Share.
Hi, everyone. It's great for you to join. The team and I are excited to share the opportunity and first give you a bit of an overview about Kindergarten to College. So the program started in 2011, and we've actually grown now to have our first class of students graduating this year. So super exciting. So we open accounts for every student enrolled in San Francisco Unified School District or SFUSD affiliated charter schools. With that account that we open, a college savings account, there's $50 that's seated there. And then we offer different awards and incentives to encourage that balance to grow. We'll move to the next slide. And part of the premise of kindergarten to college is that it's based on research that shows that just having an account in a student's name increases the likelihood of that student going to college up to 7 times. And having a balance of as little as $500 can additionally increase the likelihood that they go to college or graduate from college. And we are really excited to see that the research that helped inform the launch actually come to light as we reveal our program evaluation in the next 2 to 3 years as well. Next slide. Some of the key features of the account are that there are no fees, there's no impact on public benefits, meaning it doesn't have to be reported. Any contribution or the incentives that are there are not going to count against asset limits. We have 4 ways for students to make deposits, or students or parents. They can do a deposit by mail, via check that they send with a prepaid envelope. They can go into a physical Citibank branch. Citibank is our banking provider. They can go to schedule a bill payment with their own bank account and have that sent on a recurring basis or a one-off basis. And then they can also sign up for direct deposit. These funds being held in a college savings account are dedicated for college. However, the funds can be withdrawn, the amount that they've put in, prior to graduation in case of a financial hardship or emergency. And folks have the ability to view their balance online. Next slide. As I mentioned, there's 4 ways to make a deposit, and we will do field trips with students and families. Teresa and Celia will lead that with our partner organizations or host these at a community site or school. And we have lots of different resources, including tutorial videos that explain how you can go through these different deposit methods. And part of the work that our partners do is actually to help folks set these up or encourage them to understand what they need to make those deposits. So they'll need their account number. They'll need to know that they have to bring in an ID when they go into a branch. We have a separate form to sign up and complete when they enroll in direct deposit. And so those are things that our partners help disseminate and ensure folks are set up for success. Next slide. And as I mentioned, we have incentives that we offer every school year beyond the $50 that every student gets. And so some of these include a Save Now bonus. So when we have a newly opened account, we send a welcome kit in the mail. And if a student makes their initial deposit before the end of that school year, then we will give them $20 as a bonus. And that doesn't, the amount of that deposit doesn't matter. It could be $1, it could be $20. It's just an initial award of $20 just for taking that first step. We also offer a matching incentive for every student, kindergarten to 12th grade. That's a dollar for dollar match. So if you put in $1, we'll match that $1 up to $20 as the limit every school year. We have something that functions like interest, but technically is different, called the growth incentive. And so for those that have made contributions, they get a small award on a monthly basis. And then if a student or parent logs in to view their balance online, the first time they'll get $20, and every year after that, they'll be able to earn $20 by logging in to view their balance. Next slide. There's different higher education institutions and expenses students can use their money for. Something that's distinct about K2C is that we will disperse money directly to the participant, and then they can decide how to spend that money that's in a way that's best for them. So covering tuition fees, books, supplies, other costs that are related to higher education. So Nicole mentioned at the beginning that we have this new solicitation coming to talk not just about partnering with us to promote K2C, but some newer statewide initiatives called CalKids. And so CalKids was rolled out last year, and there's two different components to it. There's a newborn and there's a school age component. We'll focus on the school age, but just so you're aware, for any newborn born in California after July 1st of 2022, they'll receive a CalKids account with $25. And there's ways that they can have that balance quickly add up to $100 by taking different actions like registering to view their balance online, or by linking that account to what's called a California Scholarshare 529 account. For public school students, there are awards of $500 to $1,500. And this, to emphasize this, it's specifically for public school students and public school students in California that qualify for free and reduced lunch. So that's the qualifier for low income, is that they have to have been identified as qualifying for free and reduced lunch by the time the school district reports the data to the state of California. And so there's two aspects of that school age component. If a student was enrolled in the 2021-2022 school year in grades 1st to 12, every student in that school year who was identified as free and reduced lunch eligible will have received a CalKids account. And every subsequent school year, including this most recent one of 2022 to 2023, and next school year, every first grade student who is free and reduced lunch eligible will get that varying amount. And that amount is conditional on them being free and reduced lunch eligible, and the additional $500 can come from being identified as having experienced homelessness or being in the foster care system. We can go to the next slide. And some of the benefits that we've learned as we have begun to talk about K2C alongside of CalKids, this new statewide initiative, or an existing investment account like a 529, is that there's many different ways you can maximize your college savings by taking advantage of the benefits of all these different vehicles. But when a student starts to save with K2C by contributing their own money, they may want to move that balance over to the 529 account where the money can be invested and really grow over time. And some key benefits of that include that the balance that grows there is free of federal and state income tax when it's withdrawn and used for qualified educational purposes. And as I mentioned, this is an investment account, so you can choose different types of investment portfolios, including a target date fund that says my student is going to graduate in the year 2035, and it'll manage that allocation and risk accordingly, so that as a student gets near graduation and needs to access the funds are not being invested in equities, but more bonds, so that the money is readily available. But folks can take advantage of both accounts, save in both K2C and the 529 account, or they could decide at some point, I just want to save with the 529, I want to move my entire balance over. And we've featured now a number of different testimonials of students who really are sharing the successes of the program, bringing to life some of that research that we shared at the beginning that was the premise of K2C, about how it can help create a future orientation. So students really see that college is a possibility for them. They know that they have a little bit tucked away, and they look forward to growing that balance over time. And some of our most recent testimonials that you can read in recent headlines from the San Francisco Chronicle and KQED include the stories of our graduating seniors. So we have 4 graduating seniors that we featured in some recent news headlines, and also in a recent video that we have featured on k2csf.org. Awesome. I'll pass it to my colleague, Nicole.
Thanks, Mohan. So we're nearing the end of the presentation. I'm going to take the next few slides to just go over a little more of the contours of the solicitation and the partnership itself. So as we've said, we are seeking community-based organizations to provide us with family engagement and student outreach services. namely to promote K2C and CalKids with the scholar share messaging, wrapped up within that. We have some very high level goals for that work that are listed here on the slide. First and foremost, to increase the savings rate for K2C participants into their K2C accounts. Additionally, a goal will be to drive engagement with K2C accounts and with the CalKids account. So this could be things like getting students and families to register their account, having them view their balance, or on the other end of school, getting high school seniors to claim their funds that they're eligible for. And then our final goal with this work will be to promote awareness and understanding to maximize college savings. And this particularly is new in that CalKids has only been around since 2022. There are now, multiple college savings account programs that are available to San Franciscans. And so we're seeking the support of trusted community partners that can really help to provide that clarity for families, share more with them about their eligibility, and I guess at the end of the day, make sure that no one is leaving resources on the table that are available to them. And the last thing I'll say here, this last bit on the slide that we really want to stress are that we have some priorities that we want to call out that we feel will make for the strongest and the most successful collaborations with you all. Cohesion, of course, is very important, making sure that this work that we do is aligned in terms of your mission and your programs as an organization. Capacity is very crucial for us as well. We're seeking partners that are well set up to be able to do this work, whether that be in terms of their current staffing, funding, and just bandwidth to be able to implement successfully. Community is critical. We're keen on working with partners that have these trusted relationships with community that they can bring to the table to make sure that it's helping us as a program to increase our reach, and in particular in communities that we may not otherwise be reaching. And lastly, commitment. And I guess this ties in closely with capacity, but to share, this is a 2-year opportunity. And so we'll be looking for organizations who are committed to sustain the work over a 2-year period. That of course means fulfilling the scope of work, but also, joining and fully participating in monthly meetings that we have for partners and all of the reporting requirements that we'll have set up. So we're excited to have a partner or several partners, hopefully, that will bring all of these qualities to the table. And I do just want to take a moment to recognize we have some existing partners here at this meeting that have really helped to set the bar for those qualities. And so we're grateful for their work and looking forward to expanding on that, those best practices that you all have. So a little bit more about the scope of work. I didn't write scope of work, I wrote potential activities because I want to emphasize that, to accomplish the goals of this project, what we're really looking for is your own proposals to include a project plan of how you would tailor these outreach and engagement activities to your organization's strengths and to really meld in and embed with existing work that you do and existing relationships that you have. So in the proposal itself, what we'll be asking for is a template project plan that outlines potential activities for the space of 1 school year. And then we'll, imagine that each of those will be tailored to your own organizations. So, I won't go bullet by bullet here, but some of the ideas that we have on this slide are things that have worked really well for the program in the past that we'd like to see continue to grow and to scale. These could be things that involve working directly to support engagement with accounts. Mohan mentioned field trips and organizing deposit days. Also really critical to this work is training and educating folks through workshops, presentations, one-on-one support, presence at school and community events. We're keen to see project plans that weave messages about K2C and CalKids into your existing curriculum and activities where there's related topics and there's synergy around the messaging there. And of course, there's a whole thread of work around activities that involve communication, marketing, storytelling, and all of that to help to get the word out about the programs. But again, I guess my emphasis with this at the end of the day is that we're excited to bring community partners to the table for your innovation, your own core competencies as organizations, and your relationships in community. And so we'll be really looking for that integration element to be brought forward in your proposals. Next slide. Yeah, thanks. One last slide here about the opportunity, more of the mechanics. I mentioned it's a 2-year term, so we'll be contracting with organizations for the upcoming school year, starting in fall through June of 2025. We're cutting it quite close, and so we're going to do our best as a city to move quickly after the solicitation period to get through contracting so that we are as early in the fall semester of 2023 as possible to hit the ground running. The funding range is broad here and approximate, as it's noted on the slide, but an estimate that we have in mind would be $30,000 to $70,000 annually, and that's per partner. This is approximate I wrote here because it really will depend on the results of our RFP, but I can share that our goal will be to contract with multiple providers. So we'll be looking to work with multiple providers, really right size each contract based on a negotiated scope of work. And then our job as a team will be to look holistically at how all of those puzzle pieces fit together and determine funding amounts from there. I didn't include on the slide here, but the minimum qualifications for this proposal will be that folks must be a 501c3 and they must have a proven track record of working with students and families enrolled in SFUSD and or SFUSD affiliated charter schools. But I do want to note it's not going to be a minimum qualification that folks need to be an approved vendor at the time of application. Although if you are not an approved vendor and your proposal is accepted, we'll have to work with you during the contracting period to become an approved city vendor before we can start work. Am I on? Perfect. So really quickly, some next steps for you to be aware of. We're planning to do the solicitation this summer with a pretty quick turnaround. So we'll release in July and then have proposals due in August. We'll have a formal period to submit questions once that proposal is released, and any questions that we get will be addressed publicly on our website here. That's listed here. And then once again, want to emphasize that we're going to work really hard once we complete the solicitation and selection process to expedite contracting so that we can hit the ground running as soon as possible in that fall semester. Last little bit here. So the request for proposal, the request for proposal, all of the related materials, including this slide deck and our recording, will be up on the link you see here. But for everyone who registered for this webinar, we'll also make sure that you're notified the day that we publish the RFP as well. So you'll get that sent to you directly. So you have the full amount of time to work on your proposal. That's it for the presentation. I wanted to dive right into questions. I saw one question that was asked and answered. Thank you, Eric and Mohan. But I'll just reiterate it verbally here. So Eric asked if a student qualified for free and reduced lunch in 21-22 school year, but then later did not due to an increase in income for the family. Does the student still qualify for a CalKids account? Mohan responded, that is our understanding, but we as a city are undertaking a new partnership with CalKids as well. And so a lot of these details we're working to refine and have a full understanding with their project team in turn, so that we can make sure to have all of these questions that you all invariably are going to face in the field. We'll have as much of those answered. And to the extent that you can help us to develop those FAQs, that's really critical for our team's work and success as well. So thank you. Let's see, pull open the chat here and happy to take any additional questions or thoughts that folks have. If not, we may finish in record time.
Just to follow up on that last point, I encourage you all to check out the CalKids website, and there is a very detailed FAQ there. And so my understanding is that, once a student is identified as being eligible, they will have that CalKids account. There is a condition on program participants needing to reside in California for at least 1 year before they use the funds in their CalKids account to pay for qualified expenses. But if a student just moves into a private school or moves out of California and then comes back, then as long as they're a California resident, they can ultimately use that money. The other thing I'll just call out really quickly is that the headline is that they have to be free and reduced lunch eligible. There's a couple other ways that students could also qualify separate from that, and that includes being identified as an English language learner in a statewide assessment, or being identified as being part of a migrant student or being a migrant student. So those are some other ways outside of just being free or reduced lunch eligible that you could qualify for the initial $500 award. And then separately, it's being identified as experiencing homelessness or foster care for those additional $500 amounts.
Great, thanks, Mohan. And then just highlighting that Mohan included in the chat, included in the chat the FAQ for the website, although I'm seeing that it might have gone just to panelists and hosts. So we'll include that for all attendees as well. Any other questions that are coming up for folks? So I'm trying to click around to see if we can send this out to the group. I'm not seeing it. So we'll make sure in our follow-up email that we also send out relevant links to CalKids and of course our program as well. So you guys will get that with our slide deck. Great. All right. We'll stay on for a minute or two more and folks can feel free to share any other questions. Oh, perfect. Eric asks, will there be a requirement to be able to address all families in SFUSD, or can we specialize in a particular geographic area or subpopulation? That's a great question. And I think we're, great. Oh, sorry. So I'll address Eric's first. So the question around specialization, I think that is something that we're looking to get your response on. We're wanting you guys to work with the groups that you have the most core competency and trusted relationships with. And so we're designing a proposal that will give the ability to call out the areas where you have the most experience and comfort working. And so I imagine that it would be the latter, Eric, to be a specialized approach that fits within your core competence and aligns with your mission and your existing programming. And then Tasing Parker asks, do families have to live in San Francisco? I'll pass this one to Mohan to address. There's a couple of layers there depending on which program you're talking about, K2C or CalKids. So Mohan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so for the purposes of this proposal for collaboration, we're going to be really looking at evaluating outcomes that link to students qualifying for K2C and CalKids. And so for K2C, you have to be enrolled in San Francisco Unified School District or an affiliated charter school. Folks, on occasion sometimes live outside of San Francisco, but they're generally living here. But to clarify for CalKids eligibility, it is a statewide initiative, but we'll be looking for outcomes that are really tied to people qualifying for K2C, and then we're targeting those that are CalKids eligible in San Francisco County. And to expand on Eric's question, I mean, we're going to be casting a wide net through our own promotion of CalKids and K2C. We send out welcome kits, activity statements, we do emails, text messages. And so we'll be integrating CalKids there, but we look to partners as really being able to do that deep dive in a community where they have relationships and where we really want to see some outcomes. That might be in particular schools where we have our equity incentive and are really trying to close the opportunity gap. It could be with communities that are really underrepresented in higher education, whether those are undocumented students or Black and Latino identified students. And if you do have that work that you're already doing for folks in the foster care system or who have experienced homelessness, especially, those are things that you would want to call out in your proposal because we're not going to have that direct connection as much as you all might.
Great, thank you, Mohan. Any other questions from the attendees today?
Will the CalKid fund impact the eligibility for the financial aid application for senior and high school?
Sorry. The question is, will CalKids impact for financial aid for college for seniors in high school? That's a good question. Does the program team have a sense of that?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the FAQs on the CalKids website. And they say, will CalKids funds impact my ability to receive financial aid? So their answer is the CalKids award is considered a scholarship from the state of California. The fund should be processed according to your institution's guidelines and procedures around scholarship funds. So please consult your financial aid office. So one thing to understand is that CalKids money is going to be dispersed directly to an educational institution. It's not going to get sent directly to an individual. And so in my experience, what that might do is if you get a scholarship award, it might reduce the amount of a loan that you're taking, or it might reduce some other amount. So it could have an impact, but it's going to be an answer that that financial aid office at that school would be able to better answer in that student's specific context. They will be claiming the money after graduating 12th grade. And so to Eric's question, I think there are some grade levels that we're particularly interested in you engaging because you can actually do something really concrete. So one is the concrete outcome being you're going to help seniors who graduated last year or this year claim their money now that they're going to college, because now that they're seniors, they can actually use that money for CalKids. And you can do that for every subsequent school year if a student was enrolled before and has a CalKids account. But first graders that are coming into the district, that's going to be another group that you could be really honing in on and getting them to register to view their account online. And that's an important metric as well, is just to have people view their balance, just like we have people view their balance online with K2C.
Thank you, Mohan. And Eric, we'll do our best in the solicitation to make that easy for folks to talk to us about the populations that they have existing work with and existing relationships and experience. And then also in our background information outlining a lot of these particular areas of focus that Mohan mentioned, whether it's supporting high school graduation and filling out forms for claiming funds, or elementary schools where we have our equity incentive program. So we'll be able to leave those breadcrumbs for you guys to then build your project plan around. Great. Another question from Tasing here. Is there a target number for the amount of families, children we are to serve? And is this a multi-year grant opportunity? So Tasing, this is a multi-year grant opportunity. It will be the upcoming school year, so 2023 to 2024. And then the following one, so ending with June 2025. And then in terms of a target number for the amount of families and children that you are to serve, that one, it's a good question. We don't have that metric exactly. We in our minds have the citywide metric in terms of participants that we know are eligible for both K2C as well as for CalKids. Which is a bit over 35,000. I think But I think that this question kind of hits against the questions around your organization's core competency. And so what we'd really want to see is if you're not looking at the district as a whole, but really honing in on the areas where you have experience and expertise and relationships already, then we'd be looking for what you're looking to do for that particular population. So hopefully that answers your question, and happy to have anyone on the program side chime in if they have additional thoughts about that particular question.
Yeah, so currently there is about 30,000 students who have CalKids accounts that overlap with our program, but over the next couple of years of this grant, we approximate about 2,800 or so becoming eligible as they enter first grade for CalKids. And so you have both those that already have a CalKids account that you can target and engage, and you have newly entering students. And so about 35,000 overall. But I think the state is looking at, with the numbers by each county or region, how many people are registering who have a CalKids account, or how many people are claiming their money. And frankly, the numbers are relatively low. They haven't got the word out successfully. They've been sending letters, and they need folks on the ground to really help collaborate with. So I think we'll be looking at those types of outcomes from the state to share with us. How are we moving the needle in terms of people registering or claiming their money? But for us, when we approach partnership, we're looking for those that can really do that deep dive into the community, as Nicole was talking about. So I would focus, not as much on having to project a really high number, but making sure that the number estimate you come up with, it feels achievable. It's going to really, integrate into your existing programming ideally. So it's not, something extra, but it weaves into something you're already doing. And if you are doing that with, a demographic that really can benefit from this, right? And needs that financial support from a program like CalKids or K2C, then telling that story for us is going to be especially compelling than just a large number.
Mm-hmm. And then Tasting, to your question, can these funds be used for trade school? They both of them can, so CalKids as well as K2C. But maybe I'll pass it over to Mohan if you want to talk a little more broadly about what the funds can be used for.
Yeah, that's right. And I would just add on to that to say a 529 scholarship account, which is that investment vehicle that we highlighted briefly, also can be used for trade schools. And so there's been a lot more flexibility that's developed at the state level for that as well. So 529 accounts, for instance, if somebody were if the parent who opens the account learns that their student that they opened it for is not going to go to college or a trade school, they can switch the student as the beneficiary, and maybe there's a sibling that can take advantage of it. The funds in CalKids or K2C are always going to be specific to that student. And that's one thing that you'll need to sort of think through how to communicate that we already find confusing, but helping folks understand how they can, what are the benefits, what are the limitations of these different types of savings vehicles, so that they can make the decision that's best for them at the end of the day on how to maximize that.
Great. Any other questions from our attendees? Okay, Eric asks, is it possible to transfer money from ScholarShare and K2C accounts into CalKids accounts? And my understanding is they're not deposit accounts, CalKids. It's kind of a static fund that the state has available for families, but transferring in and depositing in is not what that account, not within the functionality of that account currently. Does that sound right to our program folks?
That's right. So the $500 or $500 to $1,500 that is deposited there by the state will remain in that CalKids account. You can't make your own personal contributions or move additional money into it. Something important to note as well, if you are working with families to have them register and view their balance, is that award of $500 to $1,500 can fluctuate because the amount is going to be invested, and it's going to be invested in something conservative, but the initial balance is not guaranteed. So they might log in one day and see that their $500 is $515, and another day it's $485. And that's one type of product to help folks pay for education. The 529 then is a way that you can make your own contributions and similarly invest the money. And for the 529 account, you can move your money from K2C over into that. So you could do that, and keep your K2C account open, or when you leave the school district and graduate, you can move your entire K2C balance. There is a way to also see your ScholarShare 529 balance and your CalKids balance in one place. And so that is an opportunity that you can take and help guide participants through, so that those things are not separate, but they're able to see the amount that they're putting into a 529 and then how that balance is growing over time with the CalKids account. There's a possibility eventually we might get K2C embedded with that as well, so they could see all three balances in one place, but that's a bit future off of a possibility.
All right, folks, any other questions? Oh, perfect, Eric. I see K2C accounts are available for all students, regardless of documentation status. 529 accounts are only available to students who have ITIN account or social security number. Is the CalKids account more like K2C or 529?
So CalKids accounts are opened without any tax identification number. So they're opened automatically. The school district has to report a student as being eligible for CalKids based on that criteria we shared before, but they're not providing a social or I-10 for the parent or the student. And because the funds are going to be dispersed directly to the educational institution, there's no collection of an I-10 or social security number at that point either, when funds are actually being withdrawn. So I would think of it being more like K2C in that it's meant to be inclusive, regardless of immigration status or that tax consideration. But you are correct, and that's an important detail for a 529 account, is that because you're making decisions about how the money is being invested and you're putting in your own money, both the account owner, the person who opens the account, and then the beneficiary, the student, has to have either a social security number or an I-10.
Great. Thanks, Mohan. And Ali has a question. Can these funds be used for a school outside the US?
So both CalKids and ScholarShare will say on their websites that you can use it at all these different types of educational institutions, including trade schools, colleges, universities, community colleges, vocational schools, and then even some abroad. And so the answer is yes, but there might be some conditions around that. And I think one instance that I might think of where something like CalKids could be especially valuable is in that context is like you are planning to study abroad, right? You're enrolled in a four-year university. You want to study abroad for some time, then you're still paying your university here in the States, for tuition and alike, even though they might have like a reciprocal program, but you're able to use the financial aid or scholarship awards from programs like CalKids to pay for that expense. So there might be some nuances there you want to really look into if you have somewhere specific, but the short answer is that it's not precluded initially.
Great. All right, other questions, folks? These are great questions. We're happy to take any reactions or feedback to the opportunity as well. I think I'm taking away that it'll be really important for us to articulate very clearly how the programs work, eligibility, to help you guys when you're carving out your project plans. And so we'll make sure to do our best to do that in the solicitation document itself. All right, we'll stay on for a minute or two more to see if there's any other questions that folks trickle into us. But I'll take some time to thank everyone for joining and have a great rest of your day. We'll keep in contact as we work through this solicitation and publish it in July. And like I mentioned, you all will be on the email list to get that as soon as it's made public. So we hope, and we're very excited to see some of your proposals coming in. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, team. I think we're all set. I will send out the
All
follow-up
right.
email. Great job.
All right.
Really good to
Thank
get their
you.
FAQs too. It's helpful. So cool. Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.